Absolutely excellent. Wow.
On what do you base
Good luck on
your
cross.
opinion
That's all I have to
that
say.
you just told the jurors?
That looking at the kinematics of the arm, it's inconsistent with the evidence we have, with the actual abrasions to the arm, the evidence on the sweatshirt, and that at these speeds, you would likely expect fractures, certainly to the hand, and likely to the ulna and the radius and the forearm, if your hand or arm was struck by the rear of the SUV.
Can we move to slide 48, please? What are we looking at in this slide?
This was a study where they used an impactor and they contacted the dorsal or top part of cadaver hands. And they looked at the force that was exerted and they looked at how many fractures were produced as a result of that.
Did you review scientific literature regarding hand injuries under this sort of impact loading? Is this representative of that?
It is, yes.
Next slide, please. What is this?
So this shows the position, and this is taken directly from the Aperture paint test. You can see the position that Dr. Rentschler had his hand against the tailgate right at the time of impact, and you can see that corresponds, the contact areas correspond to the areas of the hand that were actually tested in this case.
Next slide, please.
Wow.
What is this showing?
So this shows the forces produced during the test
force,
as well as the forces produced during our testing. And maybe the next slide here actually better. If you look at the knuckles, which are the blue middle region, and then the metacarpal bones, which are the lower one. So for the metacarpal phalangeal joint, the knuckles, on average it took 397 pounds of force to fracture that joint. Well, the 15-mile-an-hour test produced a minimum of 483 pounds. And more realistically, that's just with the hand weight. There's going to be more weight because it's attached to the wrist. More realistically, it's twice that, so it's around 900 pounds of force. But what these tests show is that the force produced on the hand, as represented by the PowerPoint from Aperture, even at 15 miles an hour and likely below that, you would expect to get fracture of the hand bones, of the knuckles, metacarpal interphalangeal joints, and the metacarpal bones if you contacted the rear of that vehicle at that speed.
Did you see any indication in the x-rays you saw or the medical records that you reviewed that Mr. O'Keefe's hand was damaged in such a way that you would expect?
There were no indications whatsoever of that, no, sir.
Next
He
slide,
has hands of steel.
What are we looking at in this slide?
This was a test where they actually looked at the force on the elbow. So this is a direct longitudinal force against the elbow. Now, there's no indication of exactly, the paint test has the arm horizontal, but there's no indication, there's evidence of whether maybe it would be angled or if it's straight horizontal. But even if your arm's angled a little bit at the point of impact, the forces, again, on the right are what we determined from our testing, and those are minimum. Again, that's just with the forearm. If you include the entire arm, it's about twice that. So even at 10 miles an hour, you're going to have 600 to 1,200 pounds of force acting on the arm.
Is that enough to break it?
That's enough. If you strike the elbow, that's more than enough to actually fracture the different bones of the elbow.
If an arm was hit at that speed with those forces, would you expect the x-rays to show no trauma, no broken bones, no fractures, no hairline fractures?
I would not expect that, no, sir.
Next slide, please. What are we looking at in terms of this slide?
So these are just more articles that I referenced, and they look at impact force on the forearm, so the ulna and the radius. It takes, just to have a transverse blow right against the bone, it takes about 1,100 to 1,200 pounds of force to cause a fracture. We're at that level already at a 10-mile-an-hour impact.
Mm-hmm. What about a 24-mile-an-hour impact?
24, we're at 1,400 to 2,800 pounds of force.
Did you see any trauma on John O'Keefe's arm that was suggestive of an impact of that nature, of that size, of that force?
There was no trauma. There were no fractures. There wasn't even an indication on the arm of where it would have contacted the vehicle. So if there's fracture at the taillight, there's going to be a force at that point on the arm where it actually contacts the taillight and causes that, right? There's going to be a force riser to cause that damage. There was no bruising. There was no lacerations. There was nothing at the alleged point of contact which would indicate an impact that produces thousands of pounds of force on the arm. No evidence of it whatsoever.
You just mentioned this in your answer, but I want to ask a little bit further. We've talked a lot about bone fractures and ligament damage, et cetera. What about bruising? In any of these tests, would you expect to see bruising, at least bruising, all over the arm at the points of contact?
Absolutely. Bruising occurs when the blood vessels just below the skin are ruptured, and it causes blood to flow into the arm.
Was there any indication that John O'Keefe suffered even a minimum amount of bruising on his arm at all?
No indication of any amount of bruising whatsoever on the forearm.
Next slide, please. And let's go to the next slide. I think we want to jump to slide 50. What slide are we on? Is that 53?
This is 55.
Yeah. There's no way John got hit by
Let's
a
go
car.
to the next slide.
And not going
There
at
we go. That's what I'm
that
looking for.
speed.
What are you looking at here?
It's crazy.
So this again is from the paint test, and it shows, even as the arm gets pushed in, the vehicle's not in line with the center of mass with Dr. Welcher here. So it's not a center of mass impact. And this is important because we've just looked at the arm, and we've looked at the kinematics and the force and whether that's consistent with what happened and the injuries. The next step is to look at what happens if the arm gets hit. How does Mr. O'Keefe end up where he does in the yard? So that's post-impact movement or trajectory of the body. You have to evaluate that if you want to link all these events. If you want to link the head injury to contact with the car, you have to know what happened in between. You have to know the details. And so the next part was to evaluate that.
Is there any indication in any of the testing that you did or any of the review of the medical records medical records of John O'Keefe, including the autopsy records, all of the autopsy records, the x-rays, and the hospital records, any indication that John O'Keefe was struck center of mass?
None whatsoever. No indication at all that he was struck center of mass.
Do you have an opinion or conclusion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty about whether he was struck center of mass?
I do.
And what is that opinion?
I don't believe that he was. The evidence indicates that he was not. If he was struck center of mass, imagine that. You're getting hit at the pelvis. You're getting hit on the thigh. You're getting hit at the knee. And then the body's being propelled forward. Your arm would get pushed into your body, into your ribs, into your torso. You would have very significant and substantial loading to your body, initially the right side of your body, as that impact occurred, and there's no evidence whatsoever that occurred.
Switching to a glancing blow, a blow of just the arm, not the center of mass, but just the arm. Do you hold an opinion and a conclusion as to whether or not a glancing blow or a blow to the arm only would propel Mr. O'Keefe 7, 8, or 10 feet perpendicular to the line of travel of the vehicle?
I do.
What is that opinion?
It would not be possible. Our testing demonstrates that. The peer-reviewed articles demonstrate that. I've seen no evidence anywhere in this case that would suggest or even indicate that if you get a glancing blow or a sideswipe blow, that somehow would produce enough force to push you 8 to 10 feet into the yard. I don't believe it's possible. I've seen no research that would indicate that would occur.
Do you hold that
let's
opinion
see
to
the
a reasonable
research.
degree of scientific certainty?
I do, yes, sir.
Can we move to the next slide, please? And let's go to the next slide. Let's keep going. Okay. What are we looking at in this slide?
So this slide, it's a paper that describes how to evaluate vehicle pedestrian impacts and how someone moves in the projection of that body.
Did you seek to analyze a fulsome understanding of whether it was possible that Mr.
There's
O'Keefe
no
was hit
research,
on his
no
lower
evidence.
extremities?
I did, yes.
Why did you do that? Why was that important?
Well, because with automobile pedestrian impacts, the lower extremity, your legs, your ankles, your knees, that's the most injured part of the body during autoped impacts. So if he's going to be impacted at that speed, especially at center of mass, there's likely going to be injuries to his leg, to his knee. The bumper lines up with the knee. That's one of the most commonly injured parts, as the bumper pushes into the knee, fractures the tibia, the fibula, or damages the knee joint.
Did John O'Keefe suffer
Makes
any
sense.
injuries to his lower extremities suggestive
Nope.
of a vehicle impact?
He sure did.
No, I believe the only injury was a half-centimeter abrasion on the outside of the right knee.
Could Mr. O'Keefe have suffered a half centimeter abrasion on the outside of his right knee by being struck by an SUV at 24 miles an hour?
I don't believe so. I don't see how those kinematics would work.
Sustain.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not that injury was from being struck by an SUV at 24 miles an hour or somewhere around 24 miles an hour?
I do.
What is that opinion?
I
Here we
do
go.
not believe that injury is consistent with being struck by an SUV at approximately 24 miles an
Do
hour.
you hold that
Neither do
opinion
we.
to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
I do, yes.
Neither do we.
Did Mr. O'Keefe suffer any other injuries to his legs or his lower extremities other than that small, how big was it? How many centimeters?
Half-centimeter abrasion.
That small half centimeter abrasion. Did he suffer any other injuries to his lower extremities indicative of being struck by a vehicle?
I don't believe so, no.
Let's go to the next slide.
Man.
Taking a look at the photograph on the right, concentrating on that for a second. How did that SUV get in that condition?
That was by striking the dummy at 29 miles an hour, and that was a center of mass hit with the dummy.
Were you able to review photographs of the subject SUV, Ms. Reed's SUV?
I was, yes.
Did her SUV suffer or suggest any kind of damage anywhere close to this?
No, the only real damage was to the outer taillight cover on the fender itself was fractured.
Next slide, please. We've seen this. This is the video that was the center mass impact.
That's correct, yes.
The photograph that we just saw previous, what relationship does that photograph have to this field test?
That was the condition of the SUV after it struck the dummy here at 29 miles an hour.
Can we go to the next slide, please? What are we looking at in this series of diagrams?
So this is some more recent testing that was done, and this test compared impacts between a small sedan and an SUV, and so it's looking at damage or injury to the legs as a result of this type of an impact. And these impacts are actually conducted at a speed of 24.7 miles an hour. They used cadavers, people who donated their bodies to science, set up the cadavers and struck them
Wow.
at just about 24 miles per hour.
This is a crazy study.
Did this support your opinion and conclusion concerning the lower extremities of Mr. O'Keefe and the possibility that he was hit by an SUV at speed?
It does. If I can go to the next slide, it actually.
Sure.
So this shows you for the SUV, it's the last column on the page there. The last three columns are the injuries associated with the SUV strikes. There's fractures to the pelvis, left knee injury to the ACL, the MCL, fracture of the tibia and fibula. There's extensive damage to the legs of all three of the cadaver subjects that were struck at 24 miles an hour with an SUV.
Did Mr. O'Keefe show any signs of any of these injuries?
He did not, no.
Next slide, please. Is this, what are these photographs and diagrams on the right?
So this was taken from the PowerPoint from Aperture. And so it shows that the medical diagram shows the 1.5 centimeter abrasion. And if you look at the picture on the left of the surrogate, you can see, so the bumper would line up from the knee all the way up to the pelvis. So a vehicle at speed of 24 miles an hour, if it impacts that knee or that leg, it's not going to produce only a 0.5 centimeter abrasion. It's going to get the leg, and it's going to cause significant damage to the knee and to the leg itself.
When you say from the knee to the pelvis, are you talking about the width of the, or the height of the bumper itself being from the knee to the pelvis?
I am, yes.
Would that be the contact area that you would expect if there was even a glancing blow to the knee and the hip?
That's correct. You can see on that picture there where that bumper, the rear corner of that bumper, where the bottom reflector is, it extends from the knee all the way up to the pelvis.
Can we go to the next slide, please? What are these diagrams?
Again, these are just reports, peer-reviewed articles demonstrating that autopedestrian impacts result in lower extremity injuries and fractures.
Did you review all of these peer-reviewed articles that you've told the jurors about, the academic articles, in furtherance of coming to your opinions and conclusions?
I did, yes.
Did you see any reference in the Aperture report that you reviewed and the PowerPoint slides that you reviewed that the concomitant peer-reviewed articles were sought in the paint transfer test
No.
or cited?
There was only one article that was cited in that report with respect to automobile pedestrian impacts.
Did it have anything to do with the paint transfer test?
It did not, no.
Next slide, please. And let's keep moving until we get to the, yes, there we go. What does that slide depict?
So this is the opinions that were offered in the Aperture report. And if you look at the top, number 4, it says the totality of the evidence is consistent with the right rear corner of the Reed Lexus, again, impacting John O'Keefe and Mr. O'Keefe striking the rear posterior aspect of his head on the frozen ground. And when you look below that, it basically has the references or the support for that one conclusion.
I'll see you both at sidebar for a minute.
There goes the sidebar. Why? This is an excellent study. Let's go ahead and update how many sidebars we've got. That's 3. And keep it moving. I want to get back to this study. I'm not going to let them. Keep cooking, Dr. Rentschler. Keep cooking.
Dr. Rentschler, can we move to slide? I have just a moment, Your Honor.
70, Mr. Jackson?
That's what was, I was just looking at. 7, thank you. I wish my eyes were better.
Wow. This is a great witness.
Slide 70.
Oh. Let me restart it here.
Thank you. Okay, what are we looking at in slide? This is slide 7. Yes. What are we looking at in slide 70, Dr. Rentschler?
So this was the one article that was referenced in the Aperture report with respect to automobile pedestrian impacts, and there was a chart from there that was referenced in the PowerPoint that indicates the head's the most commonly injured body region in pedestrian impacts.
And what significance did that reference have in your analysis?
Well, that's not
sense.
accurate. This article was written in 1979. And the first modern SUV, the Jeep Cherokee, wasn't manufactured until 1984.
Oh my God.
So this is an article that's 46 years old that doesn't actually relate to this type of an impact. And that's the only peer-reviewed reference with respect to automobile pedestrian impacts that was cited in the entire Aperture report.
Can we move to slide 71?
You said
recognize what's
SUVs
depicted
weren't
in this
even
slide?
invented yet.
I do, yes.
What is depicted here?
Shout out to the
So
Jeep.
this was hybrid. This is the 50th percentile hybrid 3, the same dummy that we utilized. And Dr. Welcher performed a test where
Can I interrupt you?
Sure.
So this ATD, anthropomorphic test device, was not a 95th percentile test device?
It was not, no.
Is it 50%?
It was a 50th percentile, yes.
Is that the same exact, not the same exact, same exact sized ATD that ARCA utilized in all of its testing?
It was, yes.
Okay.
And to get the forces on the head, Dr. Welcher scaled the acceleration results based on the weight, which is what I was talking about yesterday. You scale
What's going
the
on
results
here?
from the 50th percentile. That's exactly what Dr. Welcher did in this case.
Is that an appropriate way to adjust for the size of an ATD?
It absolutely is, yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
So this test, what he did, he took a 50th percentile dummy, stood it up, and then let it drop backwards and strike its head on a concrete surface.
Next slide, please. By the way, Dr. Rentschler, did the last slide include a video?
He was dancing.
I believe it did, yes.
Can we go
dancing
back?
with the.
Or I'm not sure it's on this slide, though. That's just
Crash
a
dummy?
screenshot.
I see. I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to that slide for just a second. I thought this might be the video of it.
Oh.
So in the lower portion of the center of the screen, you see Dr. Welcher holding the ATD. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you review a video of what
Dancing
happened
with the
next?
dummy?
This is not the video, but did you review the video?
I did, yes.
Describe for the jurors, since we don't have access to the video, what did you see happen from this point forward?
So Dr. Welcher releases the dummy, and the dummy just falls rigidly backwards, almost like a tree, and impacts the concrete.
Can we jump from your PowerPoint to a video that I have and ask you if you recognize it with court's permission?
Is the video in evidence?
It's in Dr. Welcher's PowerPoint.
Is it before the jury? Is it in?
It is.
Okay.
Is it in evidence? You should have asked that when Brennan was holding up the back of that sweatshirt, Judge Bev.
Okay. Do you recognize this?
But he made
I
a
do,
mistake,
yes.
so
Is this
we'll
a-
forgive him.
Just look like the same screen, basically same thing that you just took a screenshot of?
It is, yes, sir.
Okay. If we could play the first couple of seconds of the video and pause it. As that video began to play, did you recognize this as being the same video that you reviewed earlier?
It is, yes, sir.
And did you utilize this in coming to your opinions?
I did, yes.
Opinions and conclusions in this case?
I did, yes.
He's putting the
Thank you.
dummy's
Let's go
hip
ahead
back
with
in
court's
place after
permission.
being
Can we play
hit.
the video? Thank you. What did you
This is
see?
so
Describe what you
comical.
saw.
There
in this
she is.
video.
Good morning, Grace.
So this is a passive rearward fall of the ATD dummy. So just releasing and let it fall. Obviously, it's a dummy. There's no musculature. There's no response to that dummy. So this is what would happen if a rigid individual just fell backwards onto a concrete surface.
Can we see it one more time, please? I want to ask you one other question. I'm going to ask you to take note, Doctor, of the impact location. Did you see that?
I did, yes.
What kind of surface is that floor, if you could tell?
That, I believe it indicates it's a concrete surface, concrete floor.
Did you notice if the falling backward like that, the dummy slid across the floor or was propelled across the floor, anything like that?
It did not. It just dropped and angled backwards and hit directly on the floor.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. I'm sorry, if we could revert back to your PowerPoint. And if you could pull up slide, I think it's 72.
Let me, every time we do that, I have to restart the PowerPoint. Okay.
Why did you include this video one more time in your PowerPoint here?
Because, again, this is the pain test, which indicates the position, at least that Dr. Welcher had himself at to get the impact with the taillight cover. And notice, again, so it's not a center of mass hit. It hits his arm and then he slides by. So if that were to occur, he would rotate or move to the left.
Especially at 24
So-
miles an hour.
If Mr.
15
O'Keefe
miles
did
an
that
hour.
and somehow ends up falling backwards, rigid directly onto his head, he's going to have to rotate at least 270 degrees and then stop and then fall directly backwards onto his head.
It didn't
There's no explanation of the kinematics
Sustained is to the end of that. I'll strike the end.
Do the kinematics support what you just suggested?
Nope.
Sustained is to form.
What do the kinematics support?
I'm going to see you at sidebar for just a minute. Jurors will be taking our break.
All right, so are they taking their break now? Because it seems like a simple question. With that type of force being applied to his body, what would happen to John O'Keefe in that instance? Or what would have happened? Or what type of injury would you see? I don't know. Again, I'm not an attorney, but it seems like a pretty straightforward question. Let's see if AJ can get it in there. I know he will. That's 4 sidebars, y'all.
May I continue?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Welcher, based on your review of everything...
Rentschler.
Did I do that again? My goodness.
What did he say? I missed it.
This is...
Rentschler.
May I continue?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Welcher, based on your review of everything...
Rentschler.
Did I
Oh, he
do
said
that again?
Dr. Welcher.
My goodness. This is Dr. Welcher in the video, correct?
Correct.
All right. I was staring at that. I apologize. Dr. Rentschler, based on your review of the video in which Dr. Welcher is positioned, as well as the drop test that you saw, as well as the discussion of being of the body placement, where you discussed the body placement, do you have an opinion as to whether or not the testing that you reviewed from Aperture is consistent or inconsistent with John O'Keefe being struck by the vehicle, propelled perpendicular, backward, say 7 to 10 feet, and falling straight back onto a hard surface as depicted in the drop test?
There you go.
The testing is
Great job.
inconsistent with those types of kinematics or that type of scenario.
On what do you base that opinion, sir?
That's based on the testing that was performed, the evidence available in this case, and the kinematics of how somebody would move post-impact after being struck by an SUV.
Do you hold that opinion
In
to a
common
reasonable
sense.
degree of scientific certainty?
I do, yes.
Can we go to the next slide, please? May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.